In a recent video, I made the claim that you should not depart from your owner's manual and put thicker viscosity oil in your car in order to slow engine oil leaks or to make your oil last longer. I got a ton of pushback from you guys. A lot of you citing recent manufacturers getting in trouble for recommending the wrong viscosity oil in their engines. And I'm going to wade into all that controversy here in a second, as well as get into 5 other commonly held car engine oil myths. Additionally, some engine oil trivia for you. Do you know the W stands for in engine oil numbers? If you think you know, there's a good chance you're wrong. So stick around. Myth number 1. Once you use synthetic oil in your engine, you can't go back to conventional. Synthetic oil is just engineered a little bit different, but it's still oil. It doesn't change the characteristics of your engine. Now people worry that, well, if you switch, you're actually mixing a little bit of it in your engine. The thing about that is, they actually make a product that's partially synthetic oil and partially conventional. So if a company is making that to put in your car, it's not obviously a problem to do so in your engine. Another idea about synthetic that people have is that you can't use it in older cars. And I think probably where that idea came from was way back in the day when they first had synthetic oil hitting the market. Cars were still being made with like paper and cork gaskets. And there was a little bit of a problem with the early recipes for synthetic oil with those gaskets. But that's absolutely not a problem anymore these days. The next myth is, if you don't use the OEM manufacturer branded oil in your car, you will void your warranty. Manufacturers would of course love this to be true because they have a huge incentive to get everybody into their service department, buying their oil, paying their mechanics at their prices. Well, here's the thing. There's actually a federal law, the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, that prohibits manufacturers from invalidating warranties if you don't use their stuff. So you are 100% allowed to go out and use aftermarket oils on your car and still keep your warranty. However, there's a few things you want to be aware of if you're going to do your own oil changes under warranty. The main thing is that when you go out to get your oil, you want to make sure that it matches the manufacturer's specifications for quality and viscosity. The other thing is you obviously want to follow the manufacturer's interval times for changing your oil. Because if you don't do those two things, they could use that as grounds for voiding your warranty if there was ever a claim. Now on that note, a word of advice. If you do want to keep your warranty intact to do your oil changes, you want to keep good records of what you do. The car manufacturers and dealers don't want to pay out warranty claims, so they're going to fight you a lot harder if you've been doing your own oil changes. And the way you can combat that is if you have really good records, you're taking notes of the oil that you buy and the intervals at which you change it. They're not going to be able to fight you when it comes to a warranty claim that may have to do with an oil problem. Now just a side note, if you're dealing with a third-party warranty, like not one from a car manufacturer themselves, then you just want to do your own research. Make sure they don't have any extra requirements, because in my experience, those ones tend to be a little bit more tight-fisted when it comes to claims. The next myth is that with the right oil, I can go 10 or 20,000 miles before having to change my oil again. Now technically that is true. They're engineering oils nowadays to last way longer than the older stuff. So that means in a perfect world, your car should be able to go 10 or 20,000 miles in between oil changes as well. But as you know, we don't live in a perfect world. First of all, on every one of those oil bottles, there's going to be an asterisk after the 10,000 miles or whatever, and it's going to say something like, must use a 10,000 mile or more oil filter, so it's got to have the right filter. And it also say, this only works under normal driving conditions, and there's no legal definition of what that means. So who knows what normal driving conditions actually are? But if you extend that to 20,000 miles, 4 times normal, you're going to have a whole lot less in your engine by the time you realize you have a leak. Additionally, even if your car isn't leaking oil, all engines consume a little bit of oil internally. They burn oil. Even brand new ones do this. Now, this isn't really a problem if you're changing your oil every 7,000 miles and you're topping it up. But if you're quadrupling the miles that you can go in between oil changes, well, that's a whole lot more oil being burned in your engine. The next myth is that you don't want to drive your car in cold climates until after it's warmed up. And the thinking behind this, people know that their engine shouldn't run with cold engine oil. While that's technically true, it can be a little misleading. So it's true that an engine is designed to run at temperature where the engine oil is warmed up and able to flow through the passages, get up to the top of the engine, and lubricate everything properly. The problem is, engines are getting so efficient these days that it actually takes them a long time to warm up, just sitting in idling. So if you're in a freezing cold place and your car is sitting out on the driveway covered in snow, it may take 20 minutes for it to get up to operating temperature. And that's a long time for it to run with cold oil in it. It's not really good for it. So what are you supposed to do then? Get into your car, you start it up, and after like 30 seconds a minute, start driving it. Gentle driving will actually warm the engine up much quicker, get it to the operating temperature that it's designed to run at. Wherever you're going, you don't need to let it sit for a long time before you put it in gear. Get on the road, start driving. Just want to make sure that you're not stomping on it doing any kind of crazy driving. That wouldn't be good. Guys, if you're enjoying this video or you've seen any of our other content and it was helpful to you, take a moment and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. And take a moment to hit that alert bell. Now, can I take this off? The next oil myth is that oil change intervals are purely based on mileage. So if, say, I don't drive my car much, well, I can go years without changing my oil as long as I haven't gone over that threshold. Now, this just isn't true. And there's a reason why. If you look in your manual for when to change your oil, it's going to give you a mileage, 5 or 7,000 miles, and it's going to give you a time. And most of them say a year, that you don't want to go longer than a year without an oil change. And here's why. Because car engines are constantly heating up and cooling down. They can get condensation inside, so they can actually get water inside the engine. This is especially true for cars that are running in colder climates, because that difference between hot and cold is obviously much bigger. And also happens a lot with people that don't drive their car very much, or very short distance, because the engine doesn't spend enough time at operating temperature to dissipate some of the moisture that it's collected. So that's why it's important. You don't just go by mileage, because if you're driving low mileage, you're leaving that oil in the engine much longer and letting any moisture that's in there sit in your engine, which is obviously going to be bad. So that's why it is a good idea to change your oil at least once a year. And going back to what I was talking about previously, about that 20,000 mile oil that you can get for your car, if you had that in your engine and you were going strictly by mileage, say you only drove 5,000 miles a year, that's like 4 years of collecting moisture in your engine before your next oil change, which is kind of bad. Or if you're like me and you live in a small town, you drive 10,000 miles a year. I wouldn't even be taking advantage of a 20,000 mile oil because I'd be changing it once a year. Now, this last oil myth is the one I alluded to at the beginning, which is you should throw the owner's manual out and put thicker oil in your engine to protect it better. Well, that isn't true. You really do need to stick to the manufacturer's specifications on oil, and using thicker oil can often cause some engine problems. So I want to address some of the comments. Now, a lot of people were talking about a recall that happened this year, 2025, by GM, where they recalled hundreds of thousands of cars for an engine defect. So what happened was there was a manufacturing defect that led to premature crankshaft bearing failure in a lot of cars. And while GM was fixing the problem, they also changed their recommended oil for that car model in an attempt to mitigate the damage to cars that were still on the road. In the end, it wasn't because of oil viscosity that caused the problem, it was a manufacturing defect. And even if it was an oil viscosity issue, which it wasn't, it's the exception. And you know what they say, the exception proves the rule. Now, just to be clear, I'm no shill for the big manufacturing companies and car brands. I understand that they often prioritize fuel economy over engine longevity. But at the same time, we can't just all throw out the book and make up our own recipes for what oil to put in our cars. Modern engines are getting really complex. It's not like your grandpa's '70 Ford, where you could put any oil in there and probably be fine. So following the manual's recommendations for oil is a really good starting place for most of us. So unless you're doing a bunch of heavy towing or modifying your engine, or you're a big car nerd, following the manufacturer's recommendations for oil is the safest bet for all of us normal drivers. And this is especially true if you've got one of those warranties that we talked about earlier. Well, if you stuck around this long, I know that you're interested in the answer to the oil trivia question. So what does the W stand for in the first number of the oil viscosity? Well, if you're like me, you thought it meant weight, 10 weight 30, but you would be wrong. According to Pennzoil, one of the leading manufacturers of automotive oil, the W stands for winter. And probably back in the day, because the first number in the oil number has to do with the cold startup viscosity. You'd be interested to know the viscosity of the oil in winter when it's cold. Got it? Winter cold. And that's what the W stands for. You heard it here first, folks. If you liked this video on oil, then you definitely want to check out this awesome video we made recently on how to cut through the noise, all the BS, and pick the best